My first order of business is going to be to get out my largest oven-safe pan. This is my 32-inch nonstick, but any pan would work theoretically. I'm using nonstick because it's the easiest to clean, and I'm going to fill it up about halfway with hot water. Put that on the stove over maximum flame, and while that comes to a boil, I'm going to take care of the broccoli. I'm going to start by taking the crown off the stem. Next, I'm going to go around and cut off the largest florets. You could also just somewhat indiscriminately hack at it, but I like having individual florets at the end. For the uppermost part of the crown, I usually just take off the entire thing and start plucking away with my fingers. The portion I'm making today, by the way, is only large enough for about 1 to 2 people, so scale it accordingly to how many people you gotta feed. Now that I'm done with the florets, I'm going to start salvaging whatever I can from the stem. I usually start with one long vertical cut, and then I chop it into half moons until I hit the woody part of the stem. The rest of that I'll toss. Finally, I grab the largest florets and just cut them in half. If I have really large ones, I usually cut them into thirds. The idea behind this is to get the broccoli to uniform thickness so that it all cooks at right around the same rate. Alright, all done. The prep for the broccoli is done, the water is boiling, so now I can get the pasta started. When salting the pasta water, keep in mind that we're salting a relatively small amount of water, but we do have to season the pasta and the broccoli. Speaking of which, for this amount of broccoli, I usually use 200 to 250 grams or about half a pound of pasta. Shape really doesn't matter at this point, just choose your favorite. While the pasta boils, we got ample time to peel and chop a couple of garlic cloves. My favorite way to peel garlic nowadays is to smash it with the flat side of my knife. Once the skin is off, I usually take off the root end and then I chop it into little pieces. For this amount of pasta and broccoli, I usually use 4 to 5 cloves of garlic, but feel free to use more or less. Now that the garlic's chopped, I'll just put it in a little pile separated from the broccoli and I'll check my pasta. About 5 minutes have passed and the pasta is about halfway done, which means it's time to drop our broccoli. It's not really important that the broccoli is entirely submerged, the steam will cook it through eventually. While my pasta finishes cooking and the broccoli starts softening, I will turn on my oven to about 200°C convection if you got it. Maybe give the pan a stir once or twice to make sure none of the pasta is sticking to the bottom, and then after about 5 more minutes, or when my pasta is right about al dente, I will check and then get my colander and strain the entire affair. Since we're not creating a sauce, it's not important to catch any pasta water, just drain the whole thing dry. Now that my pan is empty, it goes back on the heat and I will add a healthy glug of olive oil. Once the oil has come to temperature, I will add the garlic a couple of seconds ahead of time. All I'm trying to do here is give the garlic a little bit of color so that we get some roasted flavors going and to flavor the olive oil, which in turn will flavor the entire dish because fat carries flavor. About 30 seconds to a minute after the garlic has gone in, it's starting to go golden on the edges, so that's when I'm going to drop back in my pasta and my broccoli from the colander. Toss around and stir and get everybody to know each other in the pan. Don't try too hard to get some color onto the broccoli or the pasta at this stage, it's going to get plenty in the oven. Alright, heat off. Next, hollandaise sauce. And yes, I'm grabbing a carton from the supermarket. Why yes, that does sound convenient, doesn't it? Because why on earth would anybody make hollandaise sauce from scratch just to put it into a gratin? I mean, honestly, people, if you want to make your own hollandaise sauce for this recipe, feel free. But I'm going for efficiency, minimal dishes, and the fastest way to Rome. And the stuff from the supermarket doesn't even taste half bad. Especially if you add a little cayenne and a lot of black pepper. Pretty much any flavoring at this point would work. You could also add any kind of dried herbs or spices. It's all your call. When I'm done mixing in my flavorings, I usually take my spatula and press everything into a uniform thickness. From here on out, I can treat this dish like basically a pizza. I like to add a few slices of cold cut ham, but you can also add chicken breast. I've tried it with turkey, it all works and it's all amazing, or you could omit the meat entirely. Or hey, why not crack on a few eggs, shakshuka style? It will work and it also tastes great. Next step, cheese. Any decently melting cheese would work at this stage, but I'm grabbing pre-shredded Gouda. I'm making sure that a decent portion of the cheese is touching the edges of the pan, which will crisp up beautifully in the oven. Speaking of which, that's where it's headed now for about 15 to 20 minutes. If you do not have convection, make it 30. Or until it looks like this. We want the cheese to be golden brown on top, building a crust, and anything that pokes through to be slightly charred or at least golden. My final trick to give this dish a little extra dimension is to take the juice of half a lime and squeeze it over. Lemon juice or any other kind of acid would also work, but limes have this beautiful herbaceousness, which just works really well with something relatively bland like hollandaise. Another advantage of using a non-stick pan is that the cheese will very readily release from the edges. And if you ask me, that is the best part. You can at this point also chop up some fresh herbs and just scatter them over for pretty, but honestly, it's not a pretty dish, and that's fine. It tastes amazing though. You got this beautiful crust on top, and underneath there is this creamy pasta and broccoli swirl that just melts in your mouth. To me, this dish is a perfect comfort food for a rainy day or a snowy day or sunny, actually any day. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I did eating this dish, and if you did, make sure to drop me a like, maybe even subscribe, and tell me in the comments what I should cook next. I hope to see you in the next video, and until then, bon appétit.